Hey, folks, it's me, Christiana Gaudet. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2019. I'm here live on Facebook. If you happen to be watching in archive on Facebook or YouTube, I welcome you as well. This is becoming a Monday morning tradition where I pull 3 cards for the week ahead. And some of you know I've resisted this kind of thing for a long time. Hey, Sonia, nice to see you. Glad you're here. Some of you know I've resisted this for a long time because I've always wondered, how can 3 cards be pulled for the world in general make any sense to anyone? But each and every week it turns out that, well, it really does. It really does. So I see a lot of you coming in. Mark Saylor, I see you're here. I see another Sonia here. I thank you all so much for coming into the room. I'm not going to be able to acknowledge all of you, but I see you and I'm glad that you're here. So before I pull our cards for the week, I want to talk a little bit about this Mercury retrograde. Many of you know that Mercury went into retrograde yesterday and will be there. Now, this is interesting, and maybe some of you who are astrologers, I'm not an astrologer, maybe some of you who are astrologers can let me know why I've seen 2 different dates on when this Mercury retrograde ends. I've seen July 31st and I've seen August 2nd. Now, one way or the other, we know that there is a 2-week shadow period afterwards where we will still be seeing the effects of Mercury retrograde. But one way or the other, it's an interesting point. However, what we know is that for the rest of the month of July, Mercury is in retrograde, and this is an interesting Mercury retrograde because we go from Leo to Cancer to Leo. So what does that all mean? Each Mercury retrograde is different. This one is particularly interesting because Leo is so powerful and dramatic and intense, and Cancer is so very sensitive. So what does that mean? That means that we're going to be feeling things really big time, that we may become offended very easily, yes, even more easily than usual, and that we may feel a need to express our offense, express our opinions very clearly. Now, we've seen some of that already with conversations about casting of a certain Disney movie with certain historical inaccuracies having to do with airports and the Revolutionary War. We have seen a lot of misspeaking. We've seen a lot of upset. And, I'm really not here to comment on art or politics, but I am here to comment on the opportunities that come to us in this Mercury retrograde. One of the things that strikes me is we get very upset about Mercury retrograde because some of us who are sensitive do feel it fairly intensely. And this one is going to be an intense one. Now, Mercury can be about making connections, and that's why we say back up your computer, be careful about travel, be careful about your communication, read contracts very carefully. Mercury, as we know, related to Major Arcana 1, the Magician in Tarot, Mercury is a trickster and Mercury is about communication. So you put all of that together and we can see that there could be some issues. Maybe when people misspeak, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's be careful about our own speech and make sure we're saying what we mean. And when we find ourselves getting upset about something, let's take a minute, let's breathe before we respond. Now, what are the opportunities that are presented here? Well, Mercury retrograde always presents for us an opportunity to revisit, to revise, to look at the past and heal from the past. And with this particular Mercury retrograde in Leo and Cancer, we have the opportunity to heal from past hurts. We have the opportunity to revisit past creative projects. Don't we all have a creative project, something we've wanted to do but put on the back burner, or something we've started but haven't finished? This is a great time to make that happen. So here's a little bit of shameless self-promotion. During this Mercury retrograde, I have devised a particular tarot technique specific to Mercury retrograde in Leo and Cancer that has to do with remembering who you are, with honoring your creativity, with healing from past hurts, and learning to show up authentically for yourself. And I am offering this session either in person or at distance, phone, Skype, FaceTime, Messenger, only during this Mercury retrograde. And I'm offering it at a discount. It's a half hour. It's $50. So if you would like to go through this healing session with me, all you have to do is reach out anytime during this Mercury retrograde and we'll make it happen. But once the retrograde is over, we can't do it anymore. All right. And of course, I am available during this time for regular hour and half hour readings as well. So let's get ready for our 3-card weekly reading, which this week I am using The Spirit Within Tarot by Stephen Bright. You guys know I love Stephen and I love his deck. Did you know he is creating a new magazine, Oracle World Magazine? I am very happy to announce that I will have an article published in its inaugural edition coming out in October. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so let's see what our 3 cards for the week. Let's take a look and see. First card, the world. Okay, so what does the world mean when we're doing a reading for the whole world for this week? Well, for each of you personally, you are reminded to look at the big picture. Remember what I said about not taking things so personally, about giving people the benefit of the doubt. Whatever you choose to do or say or not do or not say, look at the big picture, look at the major impact. Now, the world can also speak to travel. And, some people say, well, gee, you shouldn't travel during Mercury retrograde. But you know what? Mercury goes into retrograde 3 times a year. I like to travel, man. So just pack carefully and drive carefully. But if you're going to take a trip this summer, that is just fine. The world card says it's actually a good time to travel. Now, another thing the world can say is think about global impact. Think about what you can do in your small way to make a difference on the planet. Okay, let's see what the next card is. Okay, the next card is the 3 of Swords, but nicely it comes up reversed. Remember I said that this is a good time to think about your healing. And I always see the 3 of Swords reversed as healing from heartache, healing from something that has been hurtful. Now, we have all had hurt. What this says to me is that this week is a very good time not to focus on being a victim to your hurt, but to focus on healing. And when we put these 2 cards together, we can think about healing the planet. What can we do energetically, environmentally, to bring healing and unity to the planet? This is a good week to think about that. Okay, our 3rd and final card for this week, the 2 of Swords. So we often think about the 2 of Swords as a card of decision making, but remember that Aleister Crowley called this the card of peace. And sometimes, and this is interesting coming from a professional psychic, but sometimes we have to be at peace with what we don't know or what we haven't decided yet. So this could indicate a time of contemplation, a time of decision making, but also a time of finding peace in our hearts. And when we look at that in conjunction with these other cards, what we see is the opportunity to create peace on the planet. Now, I really do believe, when we talk about what each of us can do in our own small way, I really do believe that the energy we put out into the world is a collective thing. If we all focus on the same thing, we put out an energy that makes change. You may have seen the new book by Teresa Reed and Shaheen Miro, Tarot for Troubled Times. I just wrote a review of this book. I really think it's an interesting book, and it is about exactly this: how we can use our energy and how we can use tarot to bring healing to ourselves and healing to the planet. So if you haven't read that book, take a look at it. It's the right thing at the right time. And these cards seem to reflect that very energy. So this is a time to think about how you can bring healing to yourself and bring healing to the planet. So if you'd like to do some personal healing work, either with a special Mercury Retrograde healing session or with a regular hour or half-hour long reading, I am available to you here in my Palm City office in Florida, or by phone, Skype, FaceTime, or Messenger. I will also be in the Tampa Bay area, July 19th through 22nd. I will also be doing a psychic gallery at the Center for Inner Wisdom, and that's going to be on July 17th. This coming Sunday, we're also doing our local tarot meetup. That's at Panera here in Palm City. That's free, and I'd love to see you there. So we have a lot of fun stuff going on in and around the area. And of course, I'll be back in Connecticut August 14th through the 25th. So I'll be able to see you there as well. So wherever you are in the world, I'd love to work with you. Thank you so much for being here, either live or in archive. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you back here next Monday.